All right, so we just covered the classic upsell. I think this next one is my favorite one in this whole training, which is the menu upsell. Let's dive in. So how I learned it, description, examples, important points, and summary. So there are 4 steps to the menu upsell. We unsell what they don't need, prescribe what they do need, ask if they prefer A or B, and then make it easy to pay. So this is me getting super tactical with you in terms of how to upsell stuff like a pro. I have done so many upsell consultations in my life, and this works. I have used this sales process in many businesses. Like, this slays. All right, so here's how I learned it. So this whole process took me, call it years, to learn every single piece of it, but every single part is like a Lego thing that builds onto itself. So the first thing that I learned was, well, I'll tell you the story and you can go along with me. So I had that guy who was making supplements, and he was making 80 grand a month or whatever. And I was like, I got to start selling supplements. And so I buy $5,000 of inventory. And then of course, no one buys my product. So I'm there, I've got these full shelves. I'm reading all this stuff about retail and packaging and make sure they're twisted to the front, but no one's buying these things. And the only sales I was getting were like pity sales. And I could tell the difference. They were like, this guy's so broke. Sure, I'll buy a protein from you. Right. And so I was getting into all the science. I was like the hypertrophy and lean body mass and, creatine levels and what, like, mind you, I'm selling 70% women here. No one cared. And so I just went on a particularly bad day. I went 0 for 19 on nutrition consults. So the way that I would do is I would sell services for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and then I'd schedule all my nutrition consults in one day. And so I would just go back to back to back to back to back. And so I went 0 for 19. So I'm feeling horrible about myself. And this lady comes in and she has a fat ring, an expensive purse. And I was like, if I don't close this woman, I will kill myself. Not really. I will just continue to try. But I was like, I have to close this lady. And so we get through the nutrition part and I'm so like beat down at this point that I was like, hey, do you want vanilla or chocolate for your protein? And she just looked at me and she was like, which one do you like? And I was like, chocolate. And she was like, okay, I'll take that. I was like, and I slid across the counter and I was like, okay. And then I was like, for pre-workout, do you want kiwi or strawberry? And then I remember she'd asked me, I was like, I like kiwi. She's like, I'll take one of those. So I like put that. And now I'm afraid that I didn't want to scare her away. And so I remembered that because everybody had already bought stuff before and I had all their contracts here, because if someone's payment didn't go through, I would meet them on the nutrition console, like, hey, your second payment didn't go through. Let's make sure that's, so I had everybody's cards right there. And so I'd be like, oh, do you want to use the card that ended in 4696? And she was like, yeah, that's fine. And so I just slid them across the counter. She grabbed her tubs. She walked out the door and I was like, holy shit, I know how to sell supplements. And the craziest thing in the world is that I didn't even talk about the products. I just asked her what flavor she wanted. And so that was the first thing. I learned 2 things on that one experience. Number 1 was I learned the A or B sale. The which one did you prefer sale. It was an assumed close. I closed everyone else the rest of the day. I closed another like 12 appointments, whatever it was. I closed every single person the rest of the day. I was so pumped. And I learned the card on file close, which was, oh, if you have someone's card on file, I didn't want her to have to take her wallet out or like think about the purchase again. I was like, "There's a card on file?" And she's like, sure. And so it made it really easy for people to buy. So those are the 2 first things I learned: the A/B upsell and the card on file close. Boom. That was the first thing that I learned that became part of the menu close. The second thing I learned, and this is much later, so now I'm kind of a closing machine. I'm closing $5,000 to $10,000 a day when I would do my supplement sales days. All right, and so now I've got this lady who comes in. I got back-to-back appointments. So I would be taking 2 appointments every 30 minutes. So I would do 48 sales consults in one day, one-on-one, or sorry, not one-on-one, one-on-two, 4 per hour. And so I would go through these. And so I had to be on time. And so this lady comes in and she will not stop asking me questions. She's like, well, what if I'm traveling? What if I don't have this with me? What if it's just asking me all this stuff? And she's like, well, do I take this one at night and do this one in the morning? And I was like losing my mind. And so finally I just turned her meal plan over and I just wrote like, take 2 of these at this time, take 2 of this at this time, 1 of these at this time, blah, 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 blah. And this was how much, when, how many, what if it's working, what if I'm at home, et cetera, right? So I wrote down everything they had to do and I went late. So now the next lady, and this was the tough part because the next lady had come in already. So she's sitting there waiting for me to finish with this chatterbox. And so the next lady comes up and I'm like, okay, I got to get through this one quick so I can get back on schedule. And then she just says, hey, can you do what you did for that lady for me? And I was like, okay, great. But here's what happened. The first lady, I had gone through the pitch for every product and then she'd asked all these questions. This lady, I just said, shoot, to get back on track, I said, okay, you're gonna need 2 of these, you're gonna need 1 of these, you need 2 of these. Great. And at the end, I said, card on file. And she was like, yeah, that's fine. And then she bought everything. And I was like, holy crap. I didn't even. So what I learned was detailed and personalized instruction explaining post-purchase behavior increase the likelihood that they buy more than vague and general instructions. So basically, this is how you're going to use this thing assumes the purchase. Why am I going to spend the time to say you're going to take 2 of these in the morning, 1 of these at night, and then the person's like, oh, well, I'm not buying any of it. It'll feel like a tremendous waste of time for them. So again, feeling that like it's assumed, it's part of the thing. Required? No. Strongly recommended? Yes. And so that was the third tactic. I learned A/B close. I learned the card on file from the first lady. And then this one, I learned about detailed prescriptions. So I call this the prescription close. The third piece that completed the 4-part puzzle that became the menu sale, and this is the most deadly of them. It's so good. So now I already told you about the seating thing earlier. That's like, that's so savage, and it's still not good enough to make these 4 into what the menu close is. All right. So this one, so now this fast forward a little bit more. So now I'm a closing machine. I'm prescribing things. I'm getting everybody to buy, right? So now I'm on the road launching gyms. And so I would get good enough that I would just sell out of everything I had, right? And basically whatever I had left, I'd be like, oh yeah, you want kiwi and banana and like just whatever I had, I was like, these are the ones you're taking. So I could just sell off all the stuff I had. And so I sold out pretty early this day for a couple key products. And normally it would have been fine because I would just like basically recommend different products or different flavors that I hadn't run out of. But this lady, her friend had come at like 10 a.m. and she was coming at like 3. And so I'd already had like 20 more consults between the first lady and her friend. And her friend was just like, hey, just give me all the stuff you gave Sandra. And I was like, okay, don't have that. So what I started doing, I said, okay, well, I don't have this because I ran out. I was like, but you can get this from down the street. It's not going to be as good, but it'll get you through the program. And this one you can get from this store. This is the brand you want. It's not going to be as good, but it'll get you through the thing. And so she was like, okay, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. But after telling her the 2 or 3 things that she could get from somebody else, I then was like, but you're going to want 2 of these, which you'll take in the morning, 1 of these, which you'll take at this time. Great. You want to use the card you have on file? And she was like, sure. And so what I realized was that I went out on my way to cross out what she didn't need, and this built enough goodwill to upsell what she did. And so what I realized later, I was like, because it just went like water. I have enough sales chops to be like, that was a little too easy. Like that was way easier than normal. And so I started keeping products just to cross them out. And so I'll explain it like this. It's not that I would have products that we necessarily wouldn't sell. It was more that I had some products that I knew almost no one was going to buy. I'm selling predominantly females. So I had weight gainer. Now, if I had a guy who's trying to get bigger, then sure. But like that would be like 1 out of 100. And so for 99% of women that were coming in the door, I'd be like, well, you're not trying to gain weight, are you? They'd say no. And I'd cross out the weight gainer. And then I'd be like, hey, well, you're not trying to get any chest hair, get a deeper voice, anything like that. They're like, no. I'm like, all right, well, we're not going to use the test booster. Right. And so I would cross out 2 or 3 things on my menu. And then I would say, great, you can do this. Now, I did have some options, for example, fish oil, where I would say, listen, it was a low margin product. And so I would rather not make $3 on fish oil and make 40 on a fat burner and give the fish oil away to close 100% of people on the fat burner. And so that was how I realized what I call unselling, which is you start by telling them what they don't need so that they believe you when you tell them what they do need. And so that is what created the unsell, prescribe, ask what they prefer, make it easier to pay, menu close. So you unsell by telling customers what they don't need so that you can emphasize what they do. Here, instead of asking if they want to buy or not, you explain what they don't need as a way to get them excited about what they do. So unsells vary based on customer needs. When some options work best, you can cross out the rest, and that rhymes. So after telling them what they don't need, you then prescribe what they do need. So all the unselling is the cross out. Then we move to prescription. So in prescription, we tell them what they do need. Prescription upsells work well when offering a choice is inconvenient and you have only one thing that solves the problem. So if you have only one thing, it's like you're only taking this fat burner. There's no flavors for the fat burner. So you're just saying, this is how many you need to take at this time. Prescription upselling has 2 important components. First, you have to explain how it integrates with the offers they already bought. So they already bought service. This is going to integrate with how you use our weight loss services or our workouts or whatever. Second, you personalize and detail how to maximize its value for them. So here, instead of asking if they want to buy it or not, you explain how to use it as if they already have bought it. Again, we remove the option of not buying to lower the chance that they don't buy. Once I've told them exactly how they're going to use everything, we then ask them if they prefer A or B. So we say, okay, what are your preferences? The A/B upsells work for multiple offers that solve the same problem. All right, so you make A/B upsells by asking preference instead of asking if customers want to buy a product, yes or no. We ask which one they prefer, A or B. So either choice results in an upsell. So basically, when you give people the option not to buy, some people don't buy. So I give the option to pick between two buying options that are simpler. And once they know which one they're buying and how they're going to use it, I suggest the easiest way for them to pay. Boom, we give the card on file close, which is the cherry on top of this upsell sweetness. All right, so I literally ask, do you want to use the card on file? Just like that. So here, instead of asking if they want to pay or not, we refer to ways they have already paid in the past. And this gets more people to buy because it lowers the hidden costs of buying, picking out which card you want to use, taking it out, being reminded of ugly buying decisions in the past. Because a lot of times, some people there is a minor decision that goes when you say yes, and then there's a second yes when you reach in your pocket, and then you're looking at your card, and then you grab there's another decision that happens. We avoid that entire decision-making process by just saying, want to use a card on file? Yes, and we remove the pain associated with making the decision. So even the hassle of buying stuff in a rush. So sometimes I'd have people who are about to they're like, hey, I got to get to this thing. I'm like, card on file? And they're like, yeah, it's fine. And so if I weren't able to do that close, they'd be like, I'll pick them up later and I'll come back, and I would lose the sale. And so it's also the fastest way to close. And that is how that works. So let me give you some examples. And these are fire as fuck. All right. So if I'm a massage therapist, I would unsell. I would say, hey, we have a lymphatic massage available, but I don't think you're pregnant or just out of surgery, right? So we can cross that out. Fantastic. So then we'd prescribe. So since your shoulder hurts, we'll heat you up first, then we'll hit you trigger points, and then after that, we'll do some dynamic stretches. So that's a prescription. Now we say, so would you rather do it before work or on the way home? Then, great. You want to use a card on file? Done. If you're like, I can't A/B, you can absolutely A/B anything, and I'll show you how to do it in a second. All right, so I'll give you another example. Dog food. So you're not going to need the small bag of puppy stuff. You've got a big dog, so you don't need these vitamins either because we've got that in the food already. So you don't even worry about that. They're like, oh, wow, so nice this guy. It's already covered inside of the food that I'm buying. Then we say, but what you're going to do is give your dog one of these joint chews at each meal. All right, and every 90 days, you give them one of these wafers for heartworms. Also, make sure to bring him in back next month, and we can get that booked right now. Does your dog prefer chicken or beef flavor? Great. Want to use the card you have on file? Done. Digital products. So listen, you don't need all 8 courses yet. You just need to solve X, Y, and Z. So I tell you what, I'll send you some free stuff that solves X and Y, and you'll just need one course to cover problem Z. But to solve Z, you're definitely going to do the course in this particular way. Can you put an hour today towards it? Okay, great. So this will prevent any other Z problems from cropping up later. A or B. So would you rather have direct message or phone support? Okay, great. And would you rather start today or Monday? Got it. All right, awesome. Use any card you have on file? Done. So you can use that 4-step process with anything. Now, important points. Anything is A or B sellable. Do you want to start on Monday or Tuesday? Do you want to have John or Amy as your person? Do you want to do your workouts in the morning or the evening? Do you want paper or plastic, black or white, cherry or strawberry? It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, if you have one thing, you can think about particular features that vary within the business. Do you want phone support? You want chat support? It does not matter. You can always make something A or B sellable so that you can have a preferential close. If you make an A or B offer, I recommend adding a nudge. So that was when the lady said, which one do you prefer? So this is where you say, I like strawberry. A lot of people like Amy. John's really good with high schoolers, right? So you make a nudge based on the customer's needs. So do you want chicken or beef? A lot of the big dogs like beef. Done. It's just like you want to present. So this is what happens. We present the illusion of choice, and then we remove the friction of choice by nudging this one. So they have the illusion, yes, I'm buying something, but then we do this and they're like, great, I don't have to think about it. That sounds great. If you go to a restaurant and it's like, hey, do you want flambe or do you want creme brulee? And they're like, most people get the creme brulee. Or we get a lot of great reviews for the creme brulee. People always come back for the creme brulee. If you say that right after making the choice, we know I got the illusion, but then this is the one that they want me to buy, which might have 3 times the margin. Now, if you sell out, this is a pro tip for me. 2 things. One is if you sell out of something, you can then just nudge stuff that you're lower on inventory. So if you've got 3 bottles of this and 25 bottles of that, just nudge differently. Now, if you sell out completely, this is something I learned later, if it's physical products, or if you're at capacity for your service, take payment and deliver late. I mean, not deliver late in terms of expectations, but deliver at a delay. And I found out that people cared way less about it being a delay and care way more about missing expectations. And so if I said, hey, I'm going to take this order for you so you get exactly what you need, you're going to get it in the mail in 7 days, they were fine with it. I thought that if they didn't walk out with it, no one would buy. Not the case at all. People were totally fine buying if I set the expectation. Now, if I said they're going to come in 7 and they came in 10, they hated me. If I said 7, they came in 4, they were happy. And so if you have a service thing and you say, hey, you're on the phone, you know you can only take 7 people in a week and you already have 8 sold, then you're like, shoot, I can't take this guy on, but I don't want to miss this sale. Take the deposit, start them in 14 days. Now, this is something that I learned later because I had to teach my staff this process. And so what I found out was that employees love unselling because it's because you feel good, right? So you're talking to the prospect and because everybody basically it's like, here are your homie hookups. Everybody wants to hook up a customer because then they get a little bit of authority, a little power, they get rapport with the customer, all those things. And so you say, hey, I'm going to help you get a homie hookup by design. So these are the 3 things that you can cross out, and these are the 2 products you can tell them to buy down the street. And now once an employee doing it, it actually gets even more powerful because if it's the owner doing it, then they're like, huh, if an employee does it, it's very common for employees to not have the best interest of the business at heart. And so we lean into that bias that most people know of that they're like, hey, don't tell the boss. But now when they're saying don't tell the boss, but you do need these ones, the whole time it's scripted. If you have 2 options, so this is what happens. You're like, okay, what if I have 2 options, but I want people to buy both? All right. So the way we think about this, so there's The Economist that made this amazing case study on this. So they had their print stuff and they wanted to offer a digital offering of The Economist, a subscription. That was the most profitable. People, they could basically make more gross profit on print relative to the price. So they could charge more for it relative to the cost than they could on digital because people's perception of digital is lower in terms of value. Thinking people would buy both, The Economist offered the following. So they said $59 a year for the digital subscription and $125 per year for digital plus print. They figured everyone would take that offer. But everyone just took the $59 a year digital and said, don't need the print anymore. So their print sales plummeted, and as a result, they made way less money. Bad for them. So this is what they did to fix it. They added a decoy option in the middle. Now, the numbers here is just so that you can think about whatever you want in terms of relative price. But the actual thing that they did was they had a $59 per year digital, the $125 per year digital plus print, but this is the decoy they added. A print only for $125 a year, meaning they took their best offer and just cut it in half, but kept the price the same. And so now, if you pay $125 for either of these things, now you're like, well, you know what? I just basically get the digital for free here, whereas here I have to pay for it. So now this feels like the better deal. And then they fixed the sales, and then way more people took option C. So simply by adding the middle option, they got more people to take both. And so right now, if you have 2 things and you're like, well, how do I get them to buy both? Add the third offer that's the same price as both with only one. Bottom line is that you present 3 options, option A, option B, and option C, which is A and B, and you make the price of C, A and B, the same as the more expensive between A or B. All right. So long as you price the 3 options to preserve your margins, you make customers' choice easy, and then you sell both. Before, people take this. After, more people take that. So, money upsells work best when you have multiple offers available. Many upsells combine 4 tactics: unselling, prescribing, AB offer, and the card on file close. Unselling lower margin stuff where appropriate incentivizes higher margin upsells. Encourage employees to unsell and game the system on purpose by design. Nudge new customers towards the thing that makes sense for them, or the thing that you have the highest margins, or the thing that you're running out of or that you're not running out of in terms of directing their buying decisions. That is the menu upsell.